Thank you for including me here today and the state perspective on this. And coming from the sort of perspective of the attorneys general, we have a little bit of different angle on how we go after it and who our constituents are and who we're trying to protect, and that is the consumer in the area of counterfeit drugs. And we end up at the same place, though, to try and prevent it and not have it happen. And we're less visible on the international scene, but much more visible, I would suggest, on the local scene, the state scene, and the internet scene. And Maryland, in particular, has an interest in this because we fashion ourselves as one of the hubs for biotech in the country. And we do that because we have the National Institute of Health on one end of a road, and at the other end we have Johns Hopkins, the #1 hospital in the world. So we have a lot of biotech companies in Maryland. We want to protect them, particularly in Montgomery County. That's the largest jurisdiction she was talking about. And we have Human Genome Sciences, Digene, MedImmune, and many others. The other piece of what we do, and attorneys general, and you all come from different states, come in different sizes, different shapes, different political parties, and different philosophies. Mine is that I'm a pro-doctor, pro-drug company attorney general, because when I get sick, I want a doctor to fix me. As I said the other night to an audience, every plaintiff's lawyer needs a doctor when they get sick, and every plaintiff's lawyer wants to have prescription drugs to make them better when they get sick. They seem to forget that sometimes. That said, some things were mentioned in the introduction that we do have often an adversarial relationship with pharmaceutical companies when they do not, say, counterfeiting as we're talking about today, but engage in what we believe to be improper behavior. And we'll either work individually as attorney general or collectively through multi-states and get money back. I think we have an RFP right now out for Avandia, a product that had some issues. So we have a different view of it, but I think the overriding issue sometimes is that we all, as just people, forget who we work for, have a blind trust in the drugs we take. All these pills sort of look alike. Some of them are different colors, but a doctor says you should take this and this will make you better or this will prevent your heart attack or your stroke, and we take it. And it's a complete blind trust in that. I suppose we trust the doctor, but we assume what we're taking is what it purports to be. The difference is, of course, when we're talking about counterfeit drugs, that's not the case. We have, as attorneys general, collectively gotten very involved in prescription drug abuse. It's an area that you are very well aware of. It's an area that's growing. It's an area that is becoming much more of a problem as the federal government and others do the proverbial war on drugs and crack down on illegal drugs. The prescription drug abuse is going up higher and higher. 6 of 10 abused substances by high school seniors are prescription drugs now, and that's getting higher and higher. We have more drug-induced deaths now in Maryland than car-related deaths, and that's for the first time that's happened. So we've seen an increase in visits to the emergency room by children and adults, and one of the big issues now is the availability of counterfeit prescription drugs. And so, what can we do about it? There's 2 issues, obviously, I've sort of talked about already, which is one is the legitimate prescription drugs, the abuse of those, and then the abuse of the counterfeit drugs and their availability to children and others. And it's kind of amazing that people, in order to make, sort of take a step back, a 30,000-foot look, and think that it's amazing that people in the United States or elsewhere are willing to put this stuff on the market to risk people's safety and their lives just to make money. It happens, and we see it all the time. Maryland, just this spring, had a case involving a woman trafficking thousands of counterfeit Viagra pills. In fact, on the day of the arrest, she had 45,684 fake Viagra pills in her home, which she'd been selling through Craigslist postings, emails, and other means. Which leads to the next point, which I had to, they talked longer than I will because I'm in politics and I realize every syllable costs me a vote, so I don't want to be redundant on that because much has been said already about the internet, and with all due respect to my colleagues, the federal government is relatively inept in most things, as you saw during this debt ceiling debate on the Capitol Hill. It's like, how do these people do what they do? All the action's really at the states. But in the internet world, and particularly international trafficking of counterfeit drugs, the federal government has a huge role, and we rely on them very much. But with the counterfeit drugs being sold now at counterfeit pharmacies, and one of my, I think, let me put it up there, they look legitimate just through coding and cutting and pasting. People, the consumer, looks at these and thinks, well, maybe I don't need a prescription. Maybe that is a legitimate thing. I think CVS was on the one you showed. And so that's obviously becoming a problem. We, as attorneys general, are becoming increasingly the internet police. If you think about on the criminal side, not necessarily on this side, which most of this comes under the rubric of civil law enforcement. There is some criminal involved, obviously. But on the criminal side, if you think about your local DA is very focused on murder, rape, arson, street crime. The federal government is very focused on the criminal side, on homeland security and terrorism. Well, we become the internet police. Now, we rely on companies, legitimate companies, to police themselves. That's how we've always sort of looked at it. Like, if eBay, if you buy something on eBay and you get a fraudulent product, then you're not going to go on eBay, and other people, if that continues to happen, won't either. It'll fall apart under its own weight. So in the area of counterfeit property, we've also become more and more involved. We have been fighting the counterfeit issue of drugs within Maryland on a number of different fronts. One is through our Medicaid fraud unit, which is dedicated to the investigation and prosecution of fraud by doctors, nursing homes, hospitals, pharmacies, and other health care providers that receive Medicaid funds. And we get a number of references to us, and we go after people in that regard. We also, talking about sort of the police and the internet and consumer protection, we work to shut down illegitimate transactions on websites of legitimate companies. In fact, with Google, there's something called Google AdWords. And what was happening there was that there were scam ads for counterfeit medications and, quote, proven or guaranteed cures for things like viral sexually transmitted diseases when users performed health-related searches. So you go on, do a legitimate health-related search, and there are these Google ads that nobody had reviewed, and they said, endorsed by Oprah Winfrey and this kind of thing. And we worked with Google. We didn't have a lawsuit. We worked with them. They understood the issue and the problem, and they now monitor whether, in fact, the ads that they're putting up there on the right side on the Google page are indeed what they purport to be, and whether or not they're actually selling counterfeit drugs. Do some of them get by? Absolutely. But we've greatly reduced the number. We also put consumer alerts when we're aware of some of the counterfeit drug scams going on. We put consumer alerts out there to the people. And then our office has supported efforts by the Global IP Center and others to combat the bogus use of official brand logos by sham online pharmacies. One of the things, and it was mentioned that I'm the president-elect of NAG, it's kind of an unfortunate name, but the National Association of Attorneys General. Many of you in your states know it as the National Association of Aspiring Governors. But as president, you have an initiative, a presidential initiative. And my presidential initiative, when I take over in June, is going to be internet privacy and the internet. Issues involving privacy when you go buy a book on Amazon.com and about a particular subject. Why is it that the ads no longer on your Facebook page next time you go on are about Viagra, but now they're about whatever the topic of the book you just bought, and how that happened, and a number of different issues, global targeting of people as you walk down the street, and all of a sudden your phone goes off and it tells you about the $3 sale for the burrito at the Chipotle you're just about to pass, and a number of issues. But one of them is going to be intellectual property privacy and protecting U.S. businesses from people counterfeiting their products and counterfeiting their sites. And how do we do that, and how can we better go after them as attorneys general and collectively through state law enforcement. The final thing I'm going to talk about is only tangentially related to this issue, but I thought I'd bring it up because I have a captive audience, and I am one of these guys that can't resist a microphone. So we are starting, and it was mentioned during the introduction, a prescription drug take-back program. And I think it'll go also to the counterfeit drug issue, because when people have counterfeit drugs that are either unused, expired, or for whatever reason they're not going to ingest them, can be taken back to the pharmacy. So you've heard of drug take-back programs. DEA runs one once in a while. They'll put one out there. We've been told forever the best thing to do with these prescription drugs is to flush them down the toilet. It's exactly the wrong thing to do. Half the fish in Maryland don't know if they're boys or girls anymore because of this stuff. And because of the abuse, farm parties, PHARM, farm parties, which is just like, it's unbelievable that kids do this, but they do. As you are aware, they'll go through medicine cabinets and put them in a bowl and just take random drugs and put them in their bodies. And of course, if they're counterfeit, they're even more dangerous. At least somebody's looked at the legitimate pharmaceutical drugs. They're not obviously supposed to be used by people that don't need them, but at least they're somewhat more safe. But they'll take them and they call them skittle parties or farm parties, and all kinds of crazy things happen to them. But I come at it from the environmental standpoint, trying to get these out of people's medicine cabinets and incinerate it in a friendly way. So what we're going to do is with both for prescription drugs, over-the-counter drugs, and controlled substances, Percocet, Oxycontin, and so forth, you'll be able to take them back to every pharmacy in the state of Maryland, and when you go there to get your new prescription drug or whatever it is, and they'll hold them in a container that's safe in one way, and they'll just stay in there until they get full and they're taken away and incinerated in an environmentally friendly way. It'll obviously help pharmacies, it'll help drug companies. We're working with pharma right now to get this implemented as a 2-year pilot project in Maryland, and then see where we'll go with that around the country. So with that, I want to thank the Partnership for Safe Medicines for being a leader in the effort to reduce the manufacture, sale, and use of counterfeit drugs, and to keep consumers safe in Maryland and throughout the United States.